Hello YouTube, this is Ryan the DarthDaimyo here, putting together a tier list of the core Pokemon games. Thought we would do some extra content while I am working on some of the bigger projects. There will be more episodes of my Pokemon Blue version Nuzlocke coming, and I am also working on a Stardew Valley project, so those will be on the way, but just wanted to get something out aside from the shorts. So we're going to run through these and see what I can come up with. So the person who created this, who is this person, Torchic on Twitter, did include the original Japanese versions of the game, which, even though I really have, I've played the American versions of these, but I haven't played the in Japanese. So we'll just go ahead and put those under haven't played. Now, we're going to go through these in order. So 1996, Pokemon, it would have been like 98 in America, but Pokemon Red and Blue version, just sticking him in the middle here while I discuss. So these are more than likely the video game that I have sunk the most hours in. If you include Fire Red, Leaf Green, and Let's Go Eevee, then absolutely. Like, I don't know if there is a more iconic video game than these. Replaying them as an adult, there are mechanical things that are awkward and make them harder to play, and the remakes are a little easier on your time and your patience. However, that doesn't change the place that these games have, not only in my heart, but just in video game culture, pop culture in general. These were what started it all, so they have to go in Arceus tier. And then Let's Go Pikachu. Where is yellow version? When this game came out, I think I got it for Christmas. Came out, it would have been like Christmas 98, something like that. And part of me was like, it's the same game, I'm so mad. And then the other part of me was like, Jesse and James are in this. Oh my god, this is the best game ever. So we're just gonna slap it one below in the A tier because it's basically the same game. So I mean, if it's the same game, it should probably be up here. No, because you can't use Squirtle. Okay, so yeah, it's one tier lower. Well, you can use Squirtle, but just not from Pallet Town. You have to get it separately. So we're gonna slap it down one tier. Okay, so moving on to Gen 2, Game Boy Color, Gold and Silver, 1999. These are probably the two most these are the most anticipated video games of my lifetime, probably. I don't think I have ever been more excited for a video game than I was for Gold and Silver. Um, I remember that I had it was probably a Nintendo Power, but had like a preview of like all the new Pokemon, and I also found out that there was going to be a night and day cycle, and just absolutely have my mind blown. Um, so, but I think ultimately this is probably going to be in the B tier, lower tier. Those games are great. I think kind of the best thing about these games is some of the mechanical improvements over the original generation, and the fact that you get to go back to Kanto after you defeat the Johto Elite Four. But I just think that the Johto Pokedex just isn't nearly as exciting as the Kanto Pokedex. Not that there aren't great Pokemon in there, there absolutely are, but it's not the same. Uh, but still great games. So they're going in the B tier, the Brock tier. The A tier is the Team Rocket tier, and they finally caught Pikachu, so that's cool. Okay, and then in 2000, we got Pokemon Crystal, with Suicune on the cover here, and that's just also going to go in the B tier. I had fun with that as well, but that one was a Game Boy Color exclusive, or you had to have a Game Boy Color, whereas Gold and Silver you could play in a Game Boy or Game Boy Pocket, but I couldn't play Crystal in my little green Game Boy Pocket, so meh. But still, good game. And then moving on to Ruby and Sapphire, right here, the Gen 3 for the Game Boy Advance. Very good, very good games. I would say Hoenn overall, that Pokedex is an improvement over Johto. Obviously, each generation the mechanics get better. I think this is the first one to have running shoes. Hold on. We have to fact check that because that's going to be a factor. What Pokemon game first introduced running shoes? Ruby and Sapphire. Yeah. Running shoes was like the greatest improvement, and you're as fast as a bike all the time. So that alone, the Pokedex is better. The running shoes have to bump it up to A tier for me. Keeping it out of S tier, obviously still just not as iconic as the original. Also, this isn't the game's fault, but like the original Game Boy Advances, so not the SPs, not the flip phone ones that look like the tiny laptops, but the original like blocky ones. They had no backlight on the screen, and they were just horrendous to use. Now, of course, neither did the older ones, like the original Game Boy, but we were starting to get into an age where electronics had those backlights, and if you are anywhere close to my age, you know how frustrating it was to try and play a Game Boy at night in a car when you're driving somewhere. So we're going to lose some points just because of the original GBA, because I remember trying to play these games and being really frustrated with that. But that's okay. We're moving on. Fire Red and Leaf Green. Where's Venusaur? Here's Venusaur. I think by this point we had the SP. I think that's the GBA SP. I think that's what it was called. I might be wrong. I'd also, the cool thing about that Game Boy is you didn't have to have a charger. It just had it was the first one to have an internal battery, so that was great. But these were just the original games, but with updated graphics, and they had all the updated mechanics. They had running shoes. I mean, what can you say? They're better looking, better playing versions of arguably the best video game of all time. So it's got to go in the Arceus tier. And then we had Emerald, which is also going to go in the A tier. Just as good as Ruby and Sapphire, but you got Rayquaza, and Rayquaza is like one of the most iconic legendary Pokemon of all time. I don't think I actually sunk a lot of hours into Emerald, but I think I actually only played through that gen like start to finish once. I remember being really happy with Pelipper. But yeah. So we're moving on here to Gen 5, 2006. I remember my buddy and I getting up at like 6 or 7 in the morning to be at a game. It was probably like 7ish, to be at a GameStop an hour away, because the closest GameStop was an hour away from us. When it opened at like 8 or 9 or whatever it was, to be the first people to get our pre-order copies of Diamond and Pearl, which, oh my gosh, I put so many hours into Diamond. It was disgusting. Like probably like 300 to 400 hours on one game file. Completed the Pokedex. Like this was also, I was a senior in high school and had a lot of stuff going on, and you know, drama, that kind of stuff. And there were a couple games that I really threw myself into as a distraction. One was Diamond and Pearl, the other one was Final Fantasy 12. So these are very important games to me. Plus, the Sinnoh Pokedex has a lot of awesome stuff. I really got into like the berry growing. Like, you could grow your own trees and water them. Obviously, you guys know that I'm huge into Stardew Valley. I was big into Harvest Moon as a kid. Like, I can't really explain, but I got into the berry growing. Like, I had a whole thing. I wake up in the morning, check on my berry trees, make sure everything's going all right. I don't know. These games are amazing. Platinum, I didn't play. Like, I had Platinum and played it, but just didn't spend as much time on it as Diamond and Pearl. I mean, obviously they're basically the same game, so it feels kind of wrong to put it a tier below. But I just didn't spend as much time with it. And to be fair, it's kind of the same story with Emerald, so I'm gonna bump Emerald down one. Platinum's just as good as Diamond and Pearl. Emerald's just as good as Sapphire and Ruby, but I just didn't spend as much time on them. So, and you can see I did the same thing with Yellow. Cool. So that was 2006. Platinum's 2008. 2009. Heart Gold and Soul Silver. These games were awesome. Like I said earlier, I'm not as big a fan as Gen 2 as some of the other games. But when I got to sit down and replay them with the updated graphics and the better mechanics, and on the DS, like playing on the DS, and that's another thing about with Diamond and Pearl, the DS was just such a better gaming experience than the Game Boy, than any Game Boy. Like, it's crazy. I mean, I think it's the PlayStation 2, the Switch, and the Nintendo DS are the three best-selling consoles of all time, and that's, there's a reason for that. I love these games. I don't think they quite go to S tier, but they're definitely in the A tier. Maybe the top of the A tier. I'm not sure if I want to do like these sub rankings, because that just kind of gets confusing. Now we'll just do the tiers themselves. But these were awesome. Had a great time with them. So continuing on. And then 2010 we got Pokemon Black and Pokemon White. That's blue. I'm not big on like story in Pokemon games, at least for modern ones, but I remember being like super impressed with the story in Pokemon Black and White, and it having like a Final Fantasy JRPG. I know it's technically a JRPG, but like a Final Fantasy-esque JRPG kind of story, and being just really thoroughly enjoying it. So these are going to go in the A tier. These games were great. And then Black 2 and White 2 I played, and I remember liking them, but I don't actually remember anything about the games themselves. Where is White 2? Am I losing my mind? Nope, it's right here. So I'm just going to put them in the B tier, because I don't remember anything about these games. Like, I got it. I played it through. Yeah. Okay, so 2013, X and Y. At this point, so like those first ones were like 1998, so 10, 15. So I had been playing Pokemon for 15 years straight. Played a lot of these through multiple times. And when X and Y came out, I was super excited because they kind of had like the graphic update, and they were doing like the 3D characters, and I was like, oh, this looks so cool. And I don't even remember which one, but I picked it up, and I think I probably bought both, because I normally did that, and got through to the first gym leader and just put it down. I think I put it down for like a year, which is just like something I had never done. I always like played a Pokemon straight through as soon as it was released. And then I think I picked it up sometime down the road a second time, restarted my save file, tried again, got somewhere around the first gym leader, and just stopped. So I never actually really played these. Didn't finish them. And this is where I kind of started taking a break with Pokemon. There's I'll talk about where I got back into it, but I did have a number of years where I wasn't actively playing these main series games. Okay, so then after that was Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which I did not play. And I have considered going back and playing all of these games for the channel. It's something I may want to do at some point. And then Gen 7, Sun and Moon, did not play, like, at all. So maybe we should actually just, like, add it here. So did not finish and did not play. I feel bad putting these games in the D tier. Okay, the D stands for did not play. It's not like a grade or a judgment on them. It just means I didn't play them because I was kind of taking a break. So I at least started X and Y, but I never played Alpha Sapphire, Omega Ruby, Sun, or Moon. Okay, cool. And then I also did not play Ultra Sun or Ultra Moon. Fair enough. I did dip back in for Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu. How could I not? Like, as I've said, arguably Pokemon Red and Blue are the greatest video games of all time. This is a second remake with even better graphics on the Switch. The Switch is arguably the best video game console of all time. I absolutely adore them. It got me back into it. I was initially kind of thrown by the fact that you don't battle Pokemon to catch them. You just throw the balls. It's kind of like Pokemon Go style. But I eventually got into it. Really enjoyed the battles. Here's the thing, like, do they recapture the magic of the original? In some ways they do, and in some ways they don't. Not choosing the starters kind of hurts for me, although I'm big Eevee guy, so I played Let's Go Eevee, and I just really enjoyed, like, all the little extra things that you get to do with Eevee and Eevee riding around on your head and stuff like that. And obviously, like, it's prettier and the mechanics are better than, like, Fire Red and Leaf Green, but they're so different that it kind of feels different. So I'm not going to put them in S tier. I'm going to put them in Team Rocket tier. But they should, like, almost be S tier. They're really good, but they don't quite recapture that nostalgic feeling. Okay, so I did play these, but that was just like a small break from my break. I didn't really get back into the main series game. So after that, we had Sword and Shield, which I have not played at all. Sorry, Galar. And then after Sword and Shield, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which unfortunately I have not played. I do own a copy of Brilliant Diamond and want to play it for the channel, want to do a Nuzlocke for it, especially because of how important, like, Diamond and Pearl are to me, and Sinnoh is just amazing. But I just, I was still kind of on a break. And then this little game called Pokemon Legends Arceus came out. And I had been following it, and I'm a big Zelda fan. I love Breath of the Wild, so of course I was following this. And, like, all the changes, like, it takes place in the past. You have, like, wooden Pokeballs. You get to collect materials and craft your own Pokeballs and potions and stuff. It's got this, like, third-person shooter-esque aspect of catching Pokemon where you can literally just, like, run through a field and just chuck Pokeballs left and right. You don't have, for catching, you don't have to enter a separate screen. It's way faster. The Pokemon attack you. You have damage. You can get knocked out. The battle system is really cool. I love like I forget, like you could do like strong attacks and fast attacks. I love the Pokemon that you can ride, the open world nature of it. The story, I could not get into the story. There's way too many cutscenes and they're super annoying. But just like the design, the costumes, not the characters in terms of story, but just like the characters in terms of design. This game brought me back in to Pokemon hard, like hard. I logged a crazy amount of hours into this, finished the Pokedex. This game is really amazing. I was hoping the game system for Pokemon Legends Arceus would kind of be like the new standard, but of course, those of you who've played Pokemon Violet and Pearl know that that is not the case. Violet and Pearl, Violet and Scarlet, I had a really hard time with. I really like the open world aspect to it. So when I first started playing it, I tried to just kind of ignore the story and go off and do my own thing. But it has that same limitation that most Pokemon games have, where you need gym badges to get your Pokemon to listen to you. So initially, I was just not going to do gyms, not going to do the Elite Four, just run around and try and complete the Pokedex. But you have to do the gyms, or you just can't play the game. I kind of got pissed off that I was forced into doing that. Sorry for the language. But I did go through and play all the three different stories and got to the late game. I was really not happy with it until I got to the late game and I could just kind of run around and explore and do the Pokedex like I wanted to originally. Once I got to that point, I did enjoy the game, but the story and yeah, I wasn't happy. So I'm going to put that at the bottom of B. I haven't played the DLCs yet. I plan to at some point, but yep. All right, so that is my tier list. Comment below. And oh, look, I had a have not played and a did not play. Oh my goodness, Ryan. Oh my goodness. That's why you had that in the first place. Ugh. Okay, so that's my Pokemon main series tier list. Let me know what yours is. Comment below. Please like, share, and subscribe. And stay tuned for more Pokemon Blue Nuzlocke and some Stardew Valley videos. Thanks, everybody.